So we'll just talk you through what's involved with servicing this aquarium. There was a lot of ornaments and fake plants in this aquarium which have come out for the service. We're also going to introduce some new fish. So what we've done is going to slowly introduce water from the aquarium into the bucket so the fish can acclimatise to the bucket. And away we go. Fish are looking nice and healthy. Some beautiful little fellas in here. This is a little Julidachromis regani. And there's some silver sharks, tri-spot barbs, a spotted silver dollar, and there's a striped silver dollar in here somewhere. I think he's my favourite. He is a beautiful little fish. Little Tanganyikan cichlid with a lot of personality. When you are introducing new fish to the tank, it's really good to start with free swimming fish that are not going to hide all the time, because just be aware that some fish will hide a lot, like the clown loach. He'll hide a lot during the day. Any sort of Plecostomus or gibbysep will tend to hide a lot during the day, because it's very disappointing when you first buy a fish tank and then the first fish you get are hiders. But then as the tank gets more established and as you get more fish and as it gets nice and busy, it's actually really nice to have some fish that hide, because then when your clown loach comes out, you suddenly get really excited because you don't see them all the time. And even something like a Synodontis or an upside down cat would be nice in this tank, because once again, you get some fish that hide a fair bit. That way when they actually come out, you get all excited. And make sure your lights are not on too much, because if your light's on too much, you end up with algae. In this case, when we top the tank back up, we're only going to add water ager. And anyway, we're only going to add water ager because our GH and KH are actually quite good. Now these fish have been acclimatized, so we can pour them into the tank now, which I'll just go and do. Go and put them into the tank. It is important we acclimatize the fish so the temperature and pH in the bucket, they slowly get used to the aquarium. Then we can pop the fish in and then they're nice and happy. So we never want to dump the fish in, otherwise if the parameters of the aquarium are any different, Durko, do you want to dump them in? We tip them in the tank. Nice and gently. Yep. Beautiful. So it's important that you have catfish for cleaning your algae, and different catfish like different algae too. So in here we've got a Plecostomus, we've got a little Corydoras, and he'll be good for cleaning the scraps. We've got a clown loach now, and then we've also got some Siamese algae eaters, because they like to go for sort of the blackbeard algae. So having a range of different catfish help you to make sure you don't get too much algae. First thing I like to do whenever I service an aquarium is clean the glass. So we're going to go like this, give it a little cleany clean. This glass is already clean, and give the water a good test. Now the water that I need to test, I'm going to test the pH, which is going to be the acidity of the water. I'm going to check the KH. The KH will help to stabilize the pH. The NO2, which is nitrite, the NO3, which is nitrate. Probably won't bother checking the CO2 because there's no plants in this tank. Check the GH and definitely check the ammonia. Checking your pH is really simple. What we're going to do is put 5 mils of water into a test tube. Then we're going to add 5 drops of the pH solution. Then we're going to shake it. Then we're going to wait 5 minutes, and then we're going to look at the color. So what I just did then is I got my pH solution, which is this one, pH, and I added the 5 drops. Then I give this a shaky, then I just look at the color. So now I just flip this over, and if you want to get fancy, you can chuck this in there, and then once again compare the color. So this one is quite blue. So the colors always look different in my camera, but blue is good. So basically, for these fish, if the water was going orange, that means the pH is too low, and that means that would be bad. If the water starts going purple, that means the pH is too high, which I probably wouldn't care about unless I had ammonia. But if that was the case, I'd probably just do a water change and not add any KH, because the KH buffing product will also raise your pH. But I don't like using pH up products, because if it says pH up, it's probably just bicarbonate, and bicarbonate will raise the pH, but the pH will just fall straight back down again because there's no buffering capacity, so there's no actual ability for the KH, for the pH to stay up. So for a tank like this, I will tend to use KH to raise my pH, and in this case, the pH is like a bluey color, bluey green, so that is a good thing. Dig it in, big boy. That bit's clean now. The thing I'm checking is the KH. Now KH is carbonate hardness, and the KH is a titration test. A titration test is where you count the drops, whereas the other ones were colorimetric tests, which means you're comparing the color. So the way we do this is we get 5 mils of water in the test tube, then we just give this a shake and put in 1 drop, then we shake it, and it was blue. If it goes yellow straight away, that means that your KH is 0, and that's bad. If your KH is 0, that will affect your good bacteria, will cause you all sorts of problems. As long as your KH is not 0, normally it's not the end of the world. But in this case, I put in 1 drop of KH. See, it says KH with the little question mark. That means I don't know how many to add. See the question mark? So 1, then shake, then 2, then shake, until it goes boop, like goes from blue to yellow. When you see it suddenly go yellow, then you count the drops. Now in this case it was 14. Now 14 is relatively high for a cichlid tank, but it's still quite good. So I'm not going to worry about it. But what I would normally do is when I do a water change, I will add KH, which is this, to stop the level from falling. But in this case, when I do my water change, I'm not going to add KH, because at the moment it's just a tad on the high side. So all different types of fish like different KHs depending where in the world they're from. And this tank here, I would normally keep anywhere between say 6 and 12. But at the moment it's 14, which is slightly high, but I'm not at all worried about that. So the KH is going to be good for your good bacteria, and the KH is going to help to stabilize your pH. So every time that I do a water change, I like to check my KH. And if my KH is below 6, I would add some extra KH. If my KH is above 12, I would definitely not add any. And that will not be the same for different fish. That's why it's really important that you know what fish you keep. In this case, it would also be good to check GH. And the GH is going to tell you how much of this to add, because they're your general hardening salts. And the GH of this tank I'd like to keep somewhere around 12. Next time we'll bring a GH test kit because we don't have one right now. It's not that important, but it's a good thing to check every now and then. Ammonia is first degree fish waste. So when the fish produce waste, they produce waste in the form of ammonia. Now to test ammonia, it's really easy. What we're going to do is put 5 mils of water in each one of these. Then we're going to get NH41, and we're going to put in 4 drops. Give it a shake. NH4 2, put in 4 drops. And NH43, put in 5 drops. Give it a shaky shake and wait 15 minutes. Then what we're going to do is compare the color chart. So this sheet here tells you how to test the ammonia. Then you give it a flip over like this, and we can see the colors. Then what we can do is get this little whacker, then you put that on the holes, so then when you look down it, you can see what the color is. So in this case, that's 0, because that's yellow. And the greener it gets, the more ammonia, until eventually it goes blue. So because that's yellow and there's no green in it whatsoever, yellow is 0. 0.05 is that one. It's got a little bit of color in it. So this particular tank has 0 ammonia. And 0 ammonia means that there's been enough good bacteria that's grown in our filter to break the ammonia into nitrite. So next I show you how to test nitrite. So next we're going to check the nitrite. So after the ammonia breaks down by bacteria in the filter into nitrite, then we need to know how to check the nitrite. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get, or what I've actually just done, is we're going to get NO2, which is a nitrite. Number 1, we're going to put in 5 drops, give it a shake. Then NO2, we're going to add number 2, we're going to put in 5 drops, and then we're going to wait 5 minutes. Now I've already done this, so that's here. I'll give it a little shaky shake. Then we're going to wait our 5 minutes. Then we're going to flip this over, put that down. Then we are going to get our little viewer, a little JBL viewer thing. Then we're going to go like this. Now this one is the control and this one is the actual test. So then we're going to look down this and we're going to see what color that it matches up to. So in this case, I'm going to say the colors of my eyes look totally different to the colors from the camera. So it's lighter than that. I'm going to say it's 0. Now it looks a little bit oranger in the camera, but let's get over that. So there is no nitrite because the color is very, very light. If the color got darker or got pretty, then that's bad. So right now the nitrite is 0, which means the bacteria that breaks the ammonia into nitrite is going well in the tank, and the bacteria that breaks the nitrite into nitrate is going well in the tank. Next we're going to check the nitrate. So NO3 is nitrate. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to put 10 mils, not 5 mils like the other ones, into this one, which means we should have 10 mils in that one. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get the powder, which one here, it says NO3 number 1, and it says scoop. So that little scoopy sign. Then we're going to grab this, scoopy. Then we're going to put that into here. Then we give that a little shaky shake. Then we grab this one, which says NO3 2, and that's saying 6. So we grab this one, we give it a shaky shake. Then we put in 6 drops. Then we give that a shaky shake. Now we need to compare the color. So we swap that over like this. We grab our little color thing. It's upside down. So now what we're going to do is whack our little thing on here. Now we're going to look down here. It's very high for me on the top of this tank, and see what color it lines up with. So this is very easy to do if it's not too high for you. But basically, I'm going to say that the nitrate is lower than 1, which means that the need for water changes as far as nitrate is concerned, you do not need one. If you start getting your nitrate level up around say 40, so with the fresh water, sort of, if it starts going up into the red, that's not so good. Here's not so bad, and that's good. So right now, because this is a relatively new tank, the need for water change is really quite low. As the nitrate goes up, that means you could get better filter material, or you could just do some extra water changes or improve the quality of your food. Now, because this is quite a new tank and there's still not a lot of fish in here, the nitrate is still quite low. So the next thing we'll do after we've finished testing is do a gravel clean. We'll make sure that the gravel is nice and clean. If the gravel is dirty, we will do a bigger water change. But the two main things that I'm looking for when doing water changes is how high is my nitrate level, which over time is inevitably going to increase, and how clean is my filter. Check whether the gravel is dirty. I'm not expecting it to be heaps dirty because it's a new tank. There's not a lot of fish, and the fish are fed very good quality foods. If you feed a lot of bad quality food, you'll find that gravel is very dirty. Whereas if you feed a high quality food, something like Spectrum's probiotics, you will notice that the gravel is a lot cleaner. So what we're going to do now is just start a siphon down to the bucket like this. Then what we're going to do is push this into the gravel, and see here, there actually is a fair bit of junk coming out. So just get a close up of that. See all that crap? Alright. So this is just doing a vacuum. Like this. And every time that you do a water change, you want to be using this thing, because what that will do is suck all the dirty water out, because I'm really against just doing a water change with nice clean water off the top, because otherwise you just take the nice clean water off the top and put in nice clean water. The only way you're going to get out all the crap is to use this little device, which is a gravel cleaner, and you just use this to clean your fish tank, and you can see that's nice and clean. You can see that the power head is starting to suck air bubbles. That's why it's getting noisy. And I'll just turn that off and away we go. Having a big filter is that you don't have to clean it very often. Now, one of the main indicators of how often you need to clean your filter is how well your filter is shooting out. Now, if your filter is shooting out very powerfully like this, that means it's really not very important that you clean your filter. Over time, if the filter starts to clog, you'll notice that outlet, you'll notice it not pouring out so well. And if it's not pouring out so well and you don't notice the water shooting out so good, then it's time to clean your filter. And that's another reason why it's very important that however you have your filter, however it's set up, you need to have it set up that you can clearly see the surface agitation and you can clearly see how well it's pumping. Because if it's not pumping very well, then it's time to give the filter a clean. And the other thing to be aware of is that the water that's coming out of the filter is often in oxygen deficit, because the filter is going to grow lots of good bacteria, and the good bacteria that grows in the filter that's going to break down the waste from the fish is going to require oxygen. Now, this tank is great because it has an air stone and a power head for surface agitation, not just a filter. Where you have to be careful is when you just have a filter. Because if you just have a filter, the oxygen that comes out of the filter can be quite low. And that can affect your pH, and that can affect what's called the redox potential of the water. Now, the redox potential of the water is how well can the bacteria in the filter work. So if you have high redox, because you've got nice high oxygen levels, then your redox potential works very well, which means your bacteria grows very fast, which means your bacteria is very efficient. If you don't have good surface agitation on the top, then your dissolved oxygen level will go down and your redox potential will go down, and then your bacteria works very slowly. And if the bacteria is working very slowly, that means you have to grow more bacteria. And if you grow more bacteria, then that means that you need more bacteria. And the more bacteria you have, the more the oxygen in the filter is going to get sucked out, because the more bacteria you have in your filter, the more oxygen it will suck out. So it's a big spiral that goes down and ends up with dead fish. So you want to make sure that your filter is agitating the surface, and make sure that you have extra aerators to make sure that you have very good, nice dissolved oxygen level. Then you'll have nice, healthy fishies like this one. Make sure you always use the best biological filter material with parallel nitrifying and denitrifying bacteria. If your aquarium water is not completely crystal clear, there are various products that you'll find work absolutely amazing. Now, these products will polish your water and make it absolutely crystal clear. So it's absolutely worth experimenting with these products. And do make sure that you understand that when they are exhausted, you chuck them out and chuck a new one in. you will be surprised how much it lowers your maintenance in general and how many fish it does allow you to keep, and what a safeguard it is if something does go wrong to have a product like this in the water that polishes the water. It really helps to safeguard you against a lot of problems. How often you do water changes is how dirty your water is. So if you use a gravel cleaner like this and you suck the water out of the gravel and it comes out very dirty, the dirtier that water is, the more often you should do water changes. So once again, I will only do a water change using a gravel cleaner. I'll never suck the good water out of the top. And then how dirty that water is will just give me an indication about how often I'm doing a water change. If this is really dirty, then it should be water changed more often. If you do it and this is pretty clean, then you could certainly do it less often. And once again, quality of food is a really big thing. So Denichi is a very good food, and so is Spectrum's probiotics, which is what's in there. Now this water out of your fish tank, assuming it's freshwater tank, is quite good for your garden because it's full of fish nutrients that your garden loves. But if you have a saltwater tank or high salty water tank, maybe it's not so good for the garden. Standard freshwater tank, particularly plant tank, this is very good for the garden. Now when you're doing a gravel clean like this to do your water change, it's really important every now and then to get underneath your rocks. So it's good to do a little bit of a spring clean, which is move your rocks out of the side, go and clean underneath the rocks, then put all your rocks back again, and then next time maybe do that side. But it's good to systematically clean the back of the aquarium. And it's good too, when your ornaments start to look a bit Bob's your uncle, then it's good to take this out, put it in the sun, and the sun will dry up all of the algae on it. Then hit it with a hose, flip it over, hit it, let it dry up in the sun again. Now if you're going to add water to your aquarium, there's no problem with a freshwater aquarium like this, adding it with the hose. But what you got to be aware of is every sort of 5 centimeters as you go up, you need to redose a full dose of water ager. Otherwise, you can end up with chlorine in the water. Now, if you're only doing a small top up because of evaporation, you shouldn't need any of the KH or GH, usually definitely not KH, sometimes GH, according to the test. Then what we're going to do is let the water go up a bit and then put in a nice generous squirt of this. And that's going to get rid of any chlorine in the water. As it goes up another 5 centimeters, we put in another squirt. Now you don't want to do that if you're going to do like a half water change, because a half water change, you're going to risk putting in too much chlorine or chloramone. And if there's a lot of chlorine and chloramone in your tap water when you do the change, it could kill your fish. Then you might do it again the next week and have absolutely no problem, because it's very common that there's different levels of chlorine and chloramone in the tap at different times, depending on what's going on with the water. It's also really important that every time you're filling your tank up, to stand around and watch it, because I can't tell you how easy it is to answer your mobile phone or answer the door or go and do a poo or something that actually takes longer than you expect, and then you forget that your tank's filling up and you come back to the lounge room with water on the floor, which is not always great. Now it's really important when you finish your service to check all the power points, because I cannot tell you how easy it is to finish your service and forget to plug your filter back in or forget to plug your heater back in.